Aloha friends, we are going to dive into an investment vehicle today that quite frankly, everybody should know about. It's a tool used commonly by real estate investors to avoid paying capital gains and deferring depreciation recapture on a real estate sale. The all-famous like-kind exchange or 1031 exchange, coming up. Let's start with the basics. What is a 1031 exchange? So a 1031 exchange is a tool commonly used by real estate investors to defer paying capital gains and depreciation recapture on a real estate sale. Now, in order to do a 1031 exchange properly, you cannot use it on a primary residence or a second home. The property must be used for investment or business use only. And it's called a 1031 exchange or like-kind exchange because you're exchanging real estate for different real estate. And this real estate doesn't have to be a duplex for a duplex or land for land. It could be a duplex for a fourplex. It could be a fourplex for a shopping center. So long as the sale price is equal to or greater than your just sold property, or they call it the relinquished property. Now, when should you consider actually performing a 1031 exchange? Well, if you purchased anything before COVID, chances are you're sitting on a lot of equity in that property. So instead of paying a huge tax bill to Uncle Sam, why not roll it into a different investment? Makes sense, right? So highly recommend you consult with a good CPA and an exchange accommodator. This is the person that holds the money after you sell the property, and see what your tax bill might be, and then see what your possibilities might be if you roll that investment into a different property. You could roll that your current property into a different investment class altogether, and people commonly use a 1031 exchange when they're tired of the landlording business. So how does the process work? Well, before you do absolutely anything, you need to consult with an excellent CPA and a really good exchange accommodator. And if you need referrals on any of these two people, I got a lot of great connections here in Hawaii I can link you up with, as I've helped a lot of people, a lot of my clients buy and sell real estate using a 1031 tax deferred exchange. Now, once you sell that relinquished property, there's two very important deadlines you need to make note of. The first is 180 days. The second is 45 days. So once you sell that relinquished or sold property, you have 180 days from the closing of that property to close on your new purchased property. If you go beyond that, you have to pay the tax. Or you can do a 1031 exchange into a DST. We'll talk about that later. The other window of time you need to know about is the 45-day identification period. This is when you sell your relinquished property, and you have to submit a list of 3 properties, and you have to close on one of them. So 45 days and 180 days. Two very important deadlines in a 1031 exchange. Now, before you do a 1031 exchange, that property held for business or investment use needs to have some sort of proven track record that it's been that way for at least a year. Same thing goes when you close on your next property. You need to use that property in that mode, business or investment use, for a year after that. And traditionally, most investors buy their property, they sell their first property and then buy their next property. That is a very traditional 1031 exchange. But you could also do a reverse 1031 exchange where you buy your property first and then sell your property later. That's called a reverse 1031 exchange, which does cost more, but it is much more convenient, and you would have to set up an LLC to administer that. So throughout my career, I found that very few real estate investors know what a DST is. So DST, or Delaware Statutory Trust, is another investment vehicle where you can roll a 1031 exchange property into a trust. And this trust is spread out over a bunch of different big properties with other investors. The nice thing about doing a DST is you can take a property that you've been managing and dealing with tenants, toilets, and trash on, and roll that money into the DST, all while earning a dividend return on your money and deferring capital gains and depreciation recapture down the road. Now, these are commonly used for older sellers who are tired and sick of being a landlord, yet they still love real estate. So you can roll this money into the trust, you still earn a dividend, it's still real estate, and it's still worth money when you go to sell it. And you could even, later down the road, you could also 1031 out of the DST into a different DST and keep rolling with the funds. Now with the DST, these work great in low inventory markets. So they really became popular during COVID when inventory levels really plummeted. When all these buyers entered the market and there were bidding wars, and you're under the gun with these really stressful timelines doing a 1031 exchange with the 45-day and the 180-day window, a lot of investors couldn't tie up and close on a property within those allotted times. So the DST really became popular during that time frame because you're not actually buying one property physically. You're spreading it out into multiple properties in a trust where you don't have to manage, yet still benefiting from the tax deferrals and still getting a return. So if you want more information on a DST, I got a lot of great connections on that, and we'll see you down the road. Samuel Schaus here at Keller Williams Realty. Aloha.